Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. From the world of Hollywood comes one of the funniest comedies of all time, with four friends spending a night in Las Vegas, only to wake up the next morning to find that everything has fallen apart, forcing them to solve a mystery and make it back home. We're talking about The Hangover. The Hangover was directed by Todd Phillips from a story written by John Lucas and Scott Moore. It was released in the United States on June 5, 2009, and was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. The film focuses on four main characters, Stu, Phil, Doug, and Doug's soon-to-be eccentric brother-in-law, Alan. Doug is due to be married in 2 days, so Stu and Phil decide to treat him to a night in Las Vegas. Doug insists on bringing Alan along, and the foursome travel to Sin City. After arriving at Caesar's Palace Hotel, Phil decides to upgrade their room to a suite, and the four go up on the roof to toast the fun night that's ahead of them. But when the next morning arrives, Stu, Phil, and Alan wake up in their room with no memory of the night before. They soon discover that not only is there a tiger in the bathroom and a crying baby in the bedroom, but that Doug has disappeared. The trio spends the rest of the movie trying to piece together what happened to them during the previous night. They manage to uncover various clues along the way, which leads them to a stripper, Chinese gangsters, and former boxing heavyweight champion Iron Mike Tyson. It's up to the three to find Doug, escape trouble, and make it back home in time for the wedding. The Hangover was a monster smash at the box office, earning nearly $470 million on a budget of $35 million. It was also well received by critics, many of whom praised it for the chemistry between the cast and the clever writing. The film's success led to 2 sequels released in 2011 and 2013. Thanks to the writing, the cast, and the humor, The Hangover remains one of the funniest movies of all time and arguably one of the best comedies ever made. And that's the lowdown on The Hangover. What's your go-to film, kids? I don't mean specific. You don't have to be specific, and hold on before you answer. I'm talking about genre. For some people, it's horror. Never been into horror. I don't much care for it. I don't like to be scared. I'm a big baby. If horror's done right, forget it. I'm out. I'm not doing it. I want to be able to sleep tonight. Know what I mean? I don't have to sleep with the lights on. I'm not down with that. Don't give it to me. I don't want it. For some people, it's date movies, or what have been referred to as chick flicks. Can we still say chick flicks in this day and age, or is that like frowned upon because women aren't chicks? I don't have any idea. But that, for a lot of females in the audience, that's your drug of choice. The date movies, man. Hey, you know what? Rom-coms. Is that it? We'll just call them rom-coms if that works for everybody. And some people love that stuff, and it's their go-to genre. Well, if you're asking me, I'm glad you asked. For guys like Phil and I would suspect Marvel's our go-to, and perhaps since we're dudes, action, shoot 'em up, blow 'em up kind of films. Maybe not all the time, but they can be fun. But for me, particularly, comedies, man. I love some comedies. If the wife and I are trying to find something to watch and it's hard for us to agree on anything, because she's in the other category of rom-coms and stuff that tugs at your heartstrings. And I'm like, yeah, I can take some of that stuff in small doses, but I don't love a lot of it. But we can both agree on 2 things, a good comedy or a stand-up comedy special. Usually we can agree on that. We'll find something. When it comes to comedies, segue, as we often do here, when it comes to comedies, if you're talking about the biggest comedies of, we'll say, of this generation, I think this film is that big, if I'm being straight, The Hangover. I know what you're thinking. Holy God, these guys can't stay away from trilogies. Well, you caught us. You caught us looking. You're right. We can't. I don't know why. It's just what we do. There was 2 other movies of The Hangover. Are we ever going to cover those? We might talk about that as the show goes on. You never can tell, kids. But The Hangover, for me, is a classic comedy. Is it a classic film? I don't know. I don't know. Because when I think the word film, I don't just think a genre. I think film in general. But that's me talking. I don't know. Other people might look at it different ways. I can tell you this, Phil, as we get cranking here today, I have not seen The Hangover in a very long time. And my opinion of this film, not overall, but some of the views I had on this film have changed since the last time I saw it, and not in a negative way. Uh, so as we get going here, when's the last time you've seen The Hangover? And what's your overall view of the film?
I haven't seen it in years. I just watched it today. Uh, First of all, it does not seem like this movie was made in 2009. Um, doesn't seem like that was that long ago. Uh, this movie is over 10 years old, which is what.
Mind blowing.
Um, but the things that don't age well in there, um, it's kind of it's kind of weird to think just how much times have changed. Like there's just certain things in there that you wouldn't be able to get away with today.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that springs to mind is the F word,
Yeah,
and
just
not the F bomb, kids.
yeah. F slur you had in there. You had the just throwing around retard in there, or
Yeah, retard.
uh some uh some Asian jokes that might not go over as well today as well. Um,
Sure.
but it most of the humor in there still holds up.
Yeah, there's a few instances of that, and the F word in particular is if I use the word funny, I don't mean it to be funny, but it's an odd one to me because it's one thing to throw the N word around and people don't they're not thinking before they speak, or they are thinking and they just don't care. There's a lot of those people running around, kids. But the F word is a little bit different, in my opinion, in as much as if I were gay, would I take offense to it? I don't know how to answer that. I don't know. I guess you could take offense to anything. It's not really the word itself, right, Phil? It's how people use it towards you. If they're putting intensity behind it and they mean it as an insult, you could call someone a powder puff, and it could be taken as an insult. The person saying the word is putting enough intensity behind it, I suppose. But yeah, there's a few of those in here that perhaps didn't age well. Overall, though, dude, I don't know. I didn't bump into a whole lot of that here. And I'm with you. I haven't seen this movie in years either. We don't have to touch too much on parts 2 and 3, but for me, this was the best of the three. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I don't think either of the sequels are nearly as good.
I mean, one of two things is going to happen, right? You could hit it out of the park and do better every time out, or it's the law of diminishing returns. The same joke is not as funny the third time as it was the first time. So, but yeah, I dig this film. Do you rank this as an all time great comedy?
Um, I think you should just for its impact at the time. I mean, it probably was the one of the biggest movies of that year. Uh, and just I think what it did for a lot of those guys' careers that were in the movie, just what it did, I
Mm.
think for the kind of comedy genre as well. Just because you definitely had people trying to either make a movie similar or copy some of the comedy from that movie. So yeah, I think you have to rank it in terms of impact. Yeah.
God, it was all over the place too, wasn't it? I mean, it was all over the place when it came out. It's all anybody could talk about for sure. Um, this film runs for 100 minutes even. Try having that again. And this film made some coin there, Phil. On a budget of 35 million, it made 469.3 million
Wow.
So, yeah. I don't know what percent that is, but that's pretty darn good. I can't even. Whew, that's so much money. I mean, not even comparing it to anything else. That's a boatload of cash.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, the guy Todd Phillips did kind of all right for himself.
oh man, yeah. This is definitely a Todd Phillips flick too.
Yes.
Definitely old school. We gotta do old school, man. I love that freaking movie, dude. Old school is so good. You an old school fan?
Uh, I wouldn't say it's my favorite out of the Will Ferrell movies because Will Ferrell had this run where he was everywhere at one point. I don't know if it's one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorites, but it's a funny movie.
It is. But yeah, it was Todd Phillips directed that. I think Todd Phillips also directed. Oh man, I won't remember the name of it now.
Um,
And there you go. I can't remember. Tom Green was in it.
Road Trip.
Road Trip. He directed that as well, didn't he?
He did. He directed that. I know he also directed Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah. Ooh.
Um, he directed I mean, well, the most recent thing, of course, is Joker.
Yeah, the Joker. Yeah. It's the last thing he directed. As of this recording, it's the last thing he directed. Yeah. Yeah. He directed all three Hangover films. So there you go. Yeah, he's come a long way for a guy that did that stuff and he directed the Joker. I'm like, what? When I heard he was the man behind the Joker before the movie came out, I was like, wait a minute, the Todd Phillips? Is that who you're talking about? I mean, that was a surprise to me for sure. Um, let's get into this. As you said earlier, this film is 2009, and you're right, it does not feel like it's been that long. This definitely has launched the careers of pretty much everybody in the film. As we go down the cast list, now a lot of this cast list reads like a who's who, but at the time, I don't know if you could say that. Let's start with the pretty guy, Rocket Raccoon himself, Bradley Cooper as Phil. He is so natural in this. And I don't know if this is how's Cooper in real life. I don't know. He might be the nicest guy. Or it could be a complete douchebag. I don't know. But it kind of feels like this is really him. It doesn't feel like an act. I don't know why I feel that way. But he just is so natural in this. This would not be the same movie without him, 100%. What do you think about Bradley Cooper as Phil?
Um, yeah, I feel like this movie changed his career. I definitely saw him in other things, but uh, before this, it's kind of hard to think of a Bradley Cooper movie before Hangover because that's just how big this
Mm.
movie was for him. And I know, like I said, he's done movies before this. Off the top of my head, he's in Wedding Crashers, wasn't he?
Was he in Man, why don't I remember that?
Wasn't he the husband that Isla Fisher was going? Well, not sorry, not Isla Fisher, but um, ah, wasn't he the fiance that the main love interest was going to marry that Owen Wilson was trying to steal away?
That man, you've got a much better memory of that than I do. I think you might be right.
I think I'm right on
That's
that.
crazy. Wet Hot American Summer was 2001, which was his debut.
There you go.
He did some TV in Alias, which I didn't know that. He was in Changing Lanes in 2002, Bending All the Rules in 2002 as well. Yep, Wedding Crashers, good call. Yeah, there you go. He played Sack Lodge.
Yep, he's the
Sack.
yeah. Yeah, I immediately thought about him because he blew up Claire. That's the love interest in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, Claire, would you get back on this offer? And he like yells at Claire, would you get your back on this offer? Oh, Wilson's like, well, yeah, good luck getting married to Ike Turner.
That's a great line, man. Holy God. Oh my, that's fun. Now I want to go back and watch that movie. I don't remember being knocked out by Wedding Crashers, but now because of this, I want to go back and watch it again. So yeah, yeah, but you're right. This is what launched him for sure. Um, what do you think about him as an actor, by the way? I know he did the thing with the Star is Born, right? So, um, what do you think about him as an
I like him.
actor?
I think that he definitely showed a lot more of his range after Hangover. because he's done other comedy, he's done serious movies. I think he's good. I think that he seems to always have at least one scene where he blows up, just like the scene I just talked about from Wedding Graduate. It just always seems like he has at least
Yeah.
one scene where he blows up on somebody. Um, but he's great. I mean, he was great in Silver Linings Playbook. I think that's the name of that movie. Uh,
Yeah.
I liked
Yep.
him in
Very
American
good.
Hustle. Uh, yeah, I think that he's had a very good career. And I mean, man, what would Guardians be without him?
Oh my God. I mean, I recall the first time when the cast list came out for that, I'm like, wait a minute, he's doing a voice, and then you hear him, dude. It doesn't even sound like him, not to me. But yeah, you're right. It wouldn't be the same without him. He was also in that ill-fated A-Team film.
I actually liked him in there. I don't think he was bad.
Did you like that? No, I think he was fine. I'm a big A-Team guy. I grew up watching that in the '80s. It was my favorite show. And looking back on it now, yes, it's full of cheese. It is what it is. But I really wanted that movie to be
Yeah,
better than what
you
it
had
was.
Liam Neeson in
But
there. Um,
doing that terrible voice,
well, yeah,
like,
I thought he was fine in there.
ooh, yeah,
Yeah, he's been in a ton of movies since then, though, man.
it's
I
true.
mean, he's done basically like he's done had like almost a singing career. He did the movie alongside Lady
Hmm.
Gaga. Yeah, I don't know if any of that happens without Hangover.
I don't think it does. I think it's a good point. Yeah, yeah. Like we said, this is what broke him out to the mainstream. In terms of the cast of the four main characters, and what we could basically say three, because the fourth guy we don't see too much of. But of the four main characters here, dude, I don't know if you do this when you watch films, but I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I'm this guy, and my buddy is this guy, and my other buddy's this guy. Like I can pick myself out of a lineup. You know what I mean? And I'm definitely not Bradley Cooper. First of all, um, you look at Bradley Cooper and you're like, man, he's just too darn pretty for me. I can't stand it. But I'm definitely not him. I don't know if I'm Ed Helms as Stu, who's a dentist. Phil, not a doctor. Get it straight. Um, what do you think about Ed Helms as Stu? Again, I think he's perfect in this role as well.
Yeah, Ed Helms is great. I I think that if you say that Bradley Cooper is an integral part of this movie, I mean this movie and this franchise needs Ed Helms because he is. I don't want to say the straight guy, but he's the guy that all of these ridiculous things happen to, and he's like freaking out for the entire movie, and that's that is just such a big part of the dynamic of this movie that it just wouldn't work without him.
Yeah, I mean he's well, let's call it for what it is. His character is the one that changes the most in this movie. Absolutely.
Yeah. And talk about a guy that has
Uh,
had a weird career since then. Like he's done other things that I've enjoyed him in, but he's also in that very you talk about that ill-fated vacation movie that oof, not very good.
so bad. Yeah, that's a highly forgettable and regrettable film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, not good. Justin Bartha as Doug. This is the white Doug we're talking about, Phil.
Um
Yeah.
yeah, I think that he serves his purpose in the movie. We don't see more of him until later in the franchise, but yeah, I think he serves his purpose. He's essentially a supporting character in this movie.
He is, because you don't see too much of him. And without giving away what happened, kids, if you haven't seen The Hangover, first of all, what? Second, if you haven't, earmuffs time. Did you know? Were you going through the film trying to figure out what happened to him, and had you figured it out, or did it come as a surprise to you at the end, like it did to like everybody else?
Oh yeah, I didn't know that he was on the roof all that time.
It's good stuff. Yeah, I totally did not see that coming. He's fine in this. He is the most normal of the four, I would say, the absolute most normal. And Phil, the character of Phil is normal as well. But when you're as good looking at that as that guy is, you can pretty much say whatever you want to, get away with whatever you want to, and everybody will give you a pass. And then Ed Helms' character, he's uptight. He's controlled by his wife, by his soon to be, what we think is to be soon to be wife, Rachel Harris, who plays Melissa, who's great, by the way. She's fantastic as this controlling, domineering wife. But yeah, she's great. But no, and then to round out the quartet is the one that is the most highly questionable one of the four. Zach Galifianakis as Alan. This is his absolute breakout role. You put any comedian in this role besides Galifianakis, I don't know if this is the same movie. It may have still been good. It may have still been a hit, but I don't know if it would be as memorable without Zach. Dude, I was one of those guys that could not get enough of the stand-up comedy specials on Comedy Central. So fast forward years later, when a lot of these guys are starting to hit big, I'm looking at them going, oh man, I remember watching his special like 10 years ago or whatever it was. This was Galifianakis for me. I already knew his work before this movie ever happened. So when I heard he was in it, I'm like, oh, I love that guy. He's so funny. What do you think about Zach Galifianakis as Alan?
Yeah, I think that he is. I think that he is. This is, like you said, his breakout role. I think that this movie definitely does not work without Zach Galifianakis. He's definitely the funniest cast member in this movie. Um, he just does so many things that are either outlandish or subtle that are just hilarious. Like just like his like one word responses to things are just hilarious sometimes. Like him like him randomly picking that pizza up off the floor. He's going, did you just eat sofa pizza? Yeah. Hilarious. Or Stu yelling at him, and what do you say? Oh, you're too dumb to you're too dumb to even make fun of. And he just like stares off into the distance. Like,
Doesn't he thank him? Doesn't he say thank you for that? That's
oh
good.
man, hilarious.
The writing in this is fantastic. I mean, it's biting at times, but it's very funny. It's very sharp. It's very witty. I love it. And it's not like the best jokes you've ever heard, but it's just the way the four guys play off of each other. And Galifianakis is a huge part of that. But you're right. His one-liners are great. The baby and everything, that it's iconic. That baby, because I think the poster was the baby wearing the hat and the sunglasses, and you could see him strapped to Zach's chest, and that was the movie poster.
Yeah.
Like, that's great stuff.
I remember people used to buy shirts with the baby, like the picture of the baby strapped on the chest on the front.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I forgot about the shirt. My God, that's so funny. This isn't the real Caesar's Palace, is it?
So many lines like that. Just so many things he just randomly blurts out. Your language is offensive.
Yeah. So good. How about when they come out of the chapel and Ed Helms knocks the hat off his head, and Galifianakis is like, "Hey!" Like he's really upset that the hat got knocked off his head.
I just think everything about that. Him coming out with this big box of like souvenirs from their wedding with the hat on.
Yeah. Or when Ed Helms is talking about his grandmother's ring from the Holocaust, and he says, "I know they gave out rings at the Holocaust."
Do you think my beeper will work here? Does it get good reception here?
I have to believe a lot of this is Zach. I have to believe a lot of these one-liners are not in the script. It's just him ad-libbing. I would love to know that. I think that's got to be true. Names the baby Carlos. How about when they're at the table outside at the pool and he's got the baby like, he's like, look, check this out. And he's got the baby's hand doing the thing. Not at the table, Carlos. Jeez. Oh my God. Cop calls him Fat Jesus in the movie. That's great.
Not up in here.
So good. Not up in here, yeah. He's putting pepper on the raw ribeye.
How do you know tigers like pepper? They love pepper. They don't like cinnamon.
Yeah. It's like, how would you know that? Oh, and like he's Doug is telling Phil about Alan, and he says, well, he can't gamble, he shouldn't drink. He's like, God, he's like a gremlin. He comes with instructions.
Yeah, no, there's just so many. This movie does not work without him. There's so many things that he does in this movie that aren't even verbal. Just like him, when they first come out and go to the elevator after they get dressed, and he's just like standing there trying to flick the hair out of his face. It's hilarious, man. The way he's standing when he stands next to all the other three guys a lot of times, and like the poses he does, it's just hilarious, man.
Yeah, before he drugs them, spoiler alert, they're gonna go out, right? And he's just standing there, and he's like, so you ready to let the dogs out? And my God, dude, it's so funny. And the way they just look at him, they kind of chuckle, and the way they're looking at him. Here's something I picked up on that I don't know if I picked up on this the first time around. They never really give him a hard time. They don't treat him any differently. They don't treat him like there's something wrong with him. And it's explained that, well, he's just odd. There's nothing wrong with him. But like they're never like a jerk to him. They honestly, you can tell by the way they react to him, they actually like him, which I found kind of refreshing. That it's not one of those typical buddy comedies where they're giving each other so much grief it's almost scathing. But they actually like the character. I found that interesting.
Yeah, I think that's why he gets so attached to them throughout the movie because they don't just like shoo him away or go, make fun of him. Like even when he does something really stupid, they just kind of chuckle and go, "All right."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so good. When Ken Jeong jumps out of the trunk and he goes, I hate Godzilla. I hate him too. Oh my God.
That's what I mean.
Of all the things to
I
say
mean,
to him.
again, that's one of those Asian jokes that probably wouldn't be able to get away with that. But at the
Of
time, him just
course.
yelling at the top of his lungs was just hilarious.
Oh my God.
Kim Jong Un just like twisting this crowbar butt naked.
Oh my God. So naked. I mean, he's very naked. Oh my God. And when he's up like on the guy's shoulders and you're like, dude, ooh, yeah, that's not fun. Uh, but yeah, he's without these four guys again. It's like capturing lightning in a bottle, trying to find four guys that work this well in a cast together. But they absolutely nailed it. Tom Clark 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark 6M Podcast sent you. Heather Graham, which this is not her first jam. She's been around the block a couple of times. She did the Awesome Power thing, and is she still going, by the way? I'm trying to remember the last thing I've seen her in.
I don't know.
Good actress. I don't think she ever really gets enough credit, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not sitting here saying that she is, I don't know. I don't want to, disrespect anybody here. I'm not saying she's like, well, this is Oscar worthy appearances. But now, to be fair, I don't think she's really ever done anything to be considered that type of performance. I mean, she's mostly just always done comedies, I think. I mean, she was in Boogie Nights, right?
Yep.
But
She's in Boogie Nights. She's been in a ton of stuff. Yeah, she's been around for the longest. I'm assuming she's still working. But yeah, she's been all over the place. You name it. Bowfinger is another one that I just thought of.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, she's still working. She's still out there. I like her. I've never not liked her. But yeah, I thought she was good. We didn't get to see much of her in this film. She plays Jade. What else do you name the stripper, Phil? But Jade. I mean, Jade or Candy. It's got to be Jade or Candy.
Some kind of alcoholic beverage.
Sure. Brandy. There's one. Sasha Bareilles as Tracy, Doug's bride and Alan's sister, who she doesn't have a whole lot to do in this movie either, but what she does is good. Um, I think she does her job pretty well. Jeffrey Tambor as Sid, Tracy, and Alan's father. Jeffrey Tambor is not capable of doing anything badly, Phil. He's so funny and he's such a great straight man, but my God, he's hilarious. There's just something about this guy that he just nails it every time out of the gate. He's just so good at what he does, man. Yeah, he's been around for a while too. Yikes. He's been in Hollywood for a long time. Of course, we mentioned Ken Jeong. This is his breakout role too, as well, isn't it? I mean, this is what got him his start, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I know he. A lot of people probably know him from Community. But yeah, this is probably the thing that put him over the edge with a lot of people.
Yeah, let's see here. I mean, he's done a bunch of stuff since then, pal. Let me just tell you.
Yeah.
He was in Knocked Up. Totally forgot about that. He was in Pineapple Express and Role Models. All right, well, never mind everything I just said. And Step Brothers. Forget everything I just said, Phil.
I do think that this movie was a big break for him, though. I know that he's done a lot of movies, but I do think that this one definitely changed his career.
Leslie Chow, best name ever. Best name ever. We mentioned Rachel Harris as Melissa. Mike Tyson, that's Iron Mike to you guys, as Iron Mike Tyson. Supposedly, he originally refused to appear in the film, but changed his mind when he found that Todd Phillips directed Old School, which he was a fan of. And later said that working on the film convinced him to change his lifestyle. We'll get into that a little bit. How surprised were you? Did they have Tyson in the previews? Because I don't remember now.
No, I think that was one of those. There was so much in this movie that relied on you being shocked by it that it wasn't in the trailer. But that was the thing. This movie was so low key that there was so much of this movie that got around through word of mouth. It was one of those movies where once somebody saw it, they recommended it, and the next thing you know, like your entire friend group was like, "We got to see this movie."
Oh, 100%. But yeah, he's for what he did, he was fine. And I don't know what we expect Mike Tyson to be in the film, but this is exactly what I would expect. I thought he was great. Mike Epps as Black Doug.
Yeah, Mike Epps is hilarious. There's so many things he's been in that I've loved him in. Of course, like the Friday movies, All About the Benjamins. Yeah, I love Mike Epps. His stand-ups are great. Yeah, so it's a nice surprise to see him pop up in this.
And whenever I hear Black Doug, I think about Uncle Drew, because I think about the line on the basketball court when he's calling out the players and he's talking about how great this player is, but he says he's looking at his teammates, and he says, not Dante, not White Dante, not regular Jeff, not Melvin, not little Melvin stunt double. I love that so much.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's so funny to me. I can't help it.
When I think Mike Epps, I always think of All About the Benjamins. That is just by far my favorite thing I've seen him in. The guy that is sent to collect him at one point, that's like the henchman in the movie, and he ends up getting beat up by him and Ice Cube, and they're interrogating him in the bathroom, and the guy's got like a receding hairline, and so he starts singing him. He's like, "You'll never find a hairline like mine."
It's great. Yeah, he's great. I'm a big fan of his as well. Rob Riggle, we mentioned the cop that called Alan Fat Jesus. That's Rob Riggle. Riggle's had a nice little career. Very funny guy. Great at being the straight man. So good at that.
Yeah, a lot of bit roles he's been in over time. I mean, Talladega Nights, tons of things that he showed up in. He's always funny.
Step Brothers.
I believe, wasn't he on Saturday Night Live for a little while too?
I don't know, dude. That's an interesting question. I'm not sure if he was like an actual regular cast member or
Yeah.
not.
I know he's another guy. He's
Yep.
another guy. I think he's in 22 Jump Street or 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
But actually, I was right. I think he's in both. Um,
And you're right. He did 1 year of SNL from '04 to '05. Yeah, good call. That essentially, kids, is your cast. I had to recognize Brian Callen as Eddie, the wedding organizer. He had a very short role, but for some reason, a white Russian guy is just funny. As I don't know why it's so funny to me, but like I don't know why, and maybe that's stereotypical as well. I don't know, but I mean, he ends up getting shot in the shoulder. We
they
never
shot
see
Eddie.
him again. Yeah. Yeah, that's another great one-liner. As if anybody would care about the Russian wedding
They
guy.
shot Eddie.
Um, as we said, kids, there's your cast. Phil, I'm gonna give you this. It's become the infamous 6M question. Um, what do you think of the plot of this? And if you shoot holes in this plot, I'll be surprised because I think personally this plot is great. 'Cause even if it's so kooky, I actually have no problem with this. What's your take on the actual story that's at play here?
I like the story of the mystery of trying to find Doug the entire movie, waking up from a hangover and trying to retrace your steps from the day before. Um, I like it. I like the dynamic between all three characters throughout the movie. It's such a fun concept that I think if you poke holes through it, you're trying to poke holes through it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really have any issues with any of the storytelling here.
Yeah, same here. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous, but I don't think it's so ridiculous that you couldn't envision at least a bit of this actually happening to somebody. I mean, even if you leave out the Mike Tyson bit or whatever, I get it. But like, yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't see a lot of issue here at all with the actual story. And I mean, I've seen many comedies that's absolutely ridiculous. But no, I think this is intriguing. The whole movie's based on, kids, if you don't know, this whole movie's based on, as Phil said, these guys lose a night in Vegas. They're only supposed to stay one night. Dude, I don't know. I guess one night makes sense, but like, man. But yeah, one night is all they were going to do. They end up staying 2 nights. Uh, or wait, no, or
No,
did
they
they
only spent
spend?
one night. They just end up spending one
That's
day in
right.
Vegas. That they were supposed to go straight back the next morning.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I forgot. Forgot. Um, we got to run through this scene because this is basically the thrust of the film. We see these guys on the roof. They're toasting Jaeger, right? And they don't realize that Alan has put roofies, the date rape drug, kids, in case you don't know, what he thought was ecstasy. And this is all Black Doug's fault. But even though Black Doug didn't know.
What's a
But
roofalin?
yeah.
Stop. Why do you keep using that word with me? What's a roofalin?
Such a good line. I love how they kept telling Chow that he wasn't their Doug. He's you can see Epps going, dude, stop. Like, I don't want to get killed out here.
He's just like, nah, that's him. That's him.
Oh, that's so good. So yeah, it's cool because they do the time lapse of the city of the sun coming up. And if you didn't know something was up, you'd figure it out because you never see them leave the roof. And I'm going to walk through this scene, okay? The next thing you know, it fades to white. And when the screen comes back, the first thing we see is a hot tub. There's a empty champagne bottle, a glass of champagne. There looks to be something. Oh, it's champagne bottle corks on the edge of the tub. There's a blow up doll. There is a blow up pig and a bubble bath. More champagne. There's a bong. There's a boa, because why not? Dude, I would love to have been the prop guy that was responsible for making this happen. because this is so much fun. Just the scene is just the best. And by the way, kids, a lot of this movie was actually shot at the casino. I mean, for obvious reasons, but this particular shot of the room was done on a soundstage. I'm pretty sure we could all figure that out. There's a sword through an apple. We're not real sure where the sword came from. There's a picture on the wall that's crooked. The chair is on fire, which they never address, Phil, that I can recall. They never address the chair that's on fire. There looks to be an Elvis jumpsuit hanging up, which what's Vegas without an Elvis jumpsuit? There's a bowling bag. We never get an explanation for. There's solo cups. There's a chicken, Phil, walking around. There's the bowling ball. Why did we never hear about the chicken? He's walking around. They know it's there. They never even reference the chicken, do they?
No. And the chicken is in several scenes.
Yes, it is. We never know what happened to the chicken. And now we know why the ball's there, because now I see champagne bottles lined up in the formation of bowling pins.
What do you think they paid for the damages to this $4,200 room?
Oh my God! We never did. We hear about that in the sequels at all? Because I don't recall.
I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a great question. Well, let's don't forget $4,200 for the room. A little too rich for my blood.
$4,200 for one night.
For one night? You kidding me? Dude. Whew. Shut up. Yeah. Yeah. So when are we going to go to Vegas, Phil? You going to foot the bill or what?
Not if we're doing $4,200 a night.
Not for Oh, that's good. We see Monster Energy drink cans, which is like the most normal thing we see in these shots. We see some fairly attractive legs. She's carrying shoes heading out the door. We don't know at the time that this is Jade, the stripper / escort. We see Ed Helms' character lying face down with his glasses. There's the chicken behind him, just, hanging out, walking around. And it just gets weirder from here, kids. After this, Ed Helms wakes up, comes to realize that something's off. I mean, you know it's a bad day when you wake up and you have no idea where you are. I wouldn't know how that feels, which is good, which is nice. He sees the chicken. He's got that great camera shot where it's like he's wearing the camera. You know what I mean? Where it's like he's completely out of it, has no idea what's going on. There's a bunch of cans stacked up in the background I just saw. Lampshades, lamps. There's a TV turned sideways. Alan gets up on the floor. He's got no pants or underwear on. We're still not sure why that happened.
Pants, Alan. It's just like, I think it's a little bit weird that I've had to ask you a second time to put some pants on.
Yeah. We saw Galifianakis naked twice in this movie.
Oh my God.
We see Phil face down asleep, covered up on the floor. Alan goes to the restroom, and that's when we see, there's a sombrero. I missed a sombrero the first time around. I'm telling you, Phil, whoever put this scene together is fantastic. By the way, Phil's wearing beads around his neck, which is great. This is the first time we see the tiger. So there's a mix of a couple different things happening. The tiger is digitally inserted, obviously for safety reasons. And then there's actually an animatronic tiger that shows up later in the film. When they're in the tiger in the back seat is actually a Muppet.
Yeah. Oh no, you could tell I could tell the second time I watched it that the tiger was fake.
It's funny. I guess I was looking more toward the actual actors and not really focusing, but there's the layout of the room. And at this point, it's when everything has, gone to pieces and they're trying to figure out what's happened. And of course, Stu realizes he's missing his tooth. Yeah. Dude, let me ask you this. I don't even know that you drink. Maybe you don't. But have you ever had an experience where you woke up and you don't have any clue what happened the night before?
This only happened to me really once. but it wasn't
Really?
anything crazy. It was just
No
once I was
tigers?
already at home. I went out drinking once, and I was I woke up the next day, and for whatever reason, I didn't have a shirt on, and so I was like, why do I have a shirt on? And so I spent weeks looking for this shirt. Like I was like, oh, what happened to the shirt I had on that night? Because I liked the shirt. Um, what happened to the shirt? So when I did laundry for after like a week or two, found the shirt. I said buried at the bottom of my hamper, covered in vomit. Yeah,
Ooh, that's not fun at all.
covered in vomit. Ended up having to throw it away.
Wow. I can't say because I've never drank in my life, so I've never had an experience where I've had moments of like being so incredibly sick that, you lose track of time because you're so sick and you can't remember the night before because you were so out of it. I have had moments like that.
Have a product or a service that you want to get out into the world? Always wanted to try your hand at podcasting but don't know where to start? We've got you covered. Pod for Hire is a podcast production company that offers turnkey services to fit your needs. We produce your show from start to finish, allowing you the valuable time you require to focus on your established clients as well as prospective clients. We pride ourselves on delivering a top-notch product that will set your business apart from the rest and give your company the exposure it deserves. For more information, give us a call at 1-828-800-9880 or email us at info@podforhire.com. Pod for Hire. We take the work out of podcasting.
I did take a steel chair to the head pretty darn hard, and it was all my fault because I didn't face the chair like I was supposed to. I knew it was coming. So for some stupid reason, I threw my head back in anticipation, and he was in mid swing and he couldn't stop, and I blacked out and I saw stars, and it was like this was one of those honest to God chairs, Phil, not the kind that you know are propped or whatever you want to call them. This is the real Sunday going to meeting chairs. So I blacked out from that, but I've never really had an experience of I don't recall what happened at all the day before. I take that back. I did go through a point of really physically getting overworked. I'm talking about overworked to the point of near exhaustion. And I was suffering from exhaustion. And I was losing track of time. I was losing blocks of hours, but it was like, it wasn't anything that a few days off and some sleep couldn't fix. But at the time, it was a little scary. But no, I've never lost a whole night. So crazy. No, but I'm with you, man. I don't think there's anything wrong with the story here at all. And I mean, the movie just it becomes sort of a whodunit at this point because they come to realize that Doug is not in the room. They can't find him. And the entire movie becomes they have to find Doug. Oh, and let's don't forget the baby, Phil. We mentioned him one time, but this baby, out of nowhere, we don't realize the baby belongs to the stripper, and they don't know about the stripper yet either. I mean, the baby was very short in this film. Like we didn't see it all that much, but man, the with the baby so much better. It's just so much more of an effect, So funny. Yeah, but that's God. I'm watching it again right now. This is so good.
Uh, yeah. Does that whole panning shot of everything going on in the room is just like it's just still so crazy. There's so much going on at the same time. That's like, all right, man. Because we don't see anything. We
Yeah,
just see the time lapse of the Vegas strip, and then it cuts back to that scene.
the baby who Alan called Carlos, which is hilarious, is actually Tyler in the film. Grant Holmquist. This kid is 9 years old now. So yeah. Now I'm compelled to find out what this kid's doing now.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Nine
I don't
years
know.
old. Yeah. He's just a 9-year-old kid, Phil. He's going to school, I imagine. It'd be great if this kid grew up to be an actor. And then at some point in a film. See where I'm going with this? Oh my god, that'd be so funny. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what. Never can tell what life holds. Um, there's some cool stuff. There's a lot of cool stuff about this film, man. But there's like the girl behind the hotel counter when they check in. I feel like I know her, and I looked her up, and I don't know anything she's been in, and she's done a lot of commercials, which is probably how I know her. But dude, she is so familiar to me, and it's maddening that I can't remember where I've seen her at. But I guess it's just her commercial work.
Yeah, I don't know.
Gosh, she just looks so familiar. Um, but yeah, God, there's so many good moments in this. At one point, Jonah Hill was being considered for the role of Alan. Jonah Hill would not have been a good Alan.
I think he would have been funny in this movie, but I just don't think it would have had the same effect as Alan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have had the same effect.
No, Jake Gyllenhaal and Thomas Hayden Church were also possibilities. How'd that happen?
Yeah, I kind of think that the movie worked better because a lot of these guys were unknown for some people. Like they had been around, they had done smaller roles for the longest, but a lot of these people weren't big name actors yet.
Yeah, that's true. Ed Helms lost a tooth, right? He wears a dental implant. His front tooth never developed, so he's always wore a dental implant, but he removed it for the film.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, neither did I. A lot of the lines were ad-libbed, which we knew that for sure. You could just tell those moments when they happen. Ken Jeong, which is God, not so funny. Supposedly at the time, his wife, they'd received news that she had been diagnosed with breast cancer. And supposedly this is why, so technically he became unhinged through the character. The only two people who had any idea were Bradley Cooper and Todd Phillips. So yeah, it's odd the stories you get behind the scenes sometimes, man.
Yeah.
Crazy. Was this a movie you saw more than one time in the theater?
No, I saw it the first time. I feel like the first viewing of it, you got to get in there before anything is spoiled for you or any of that stuff. So I think after you see it the first time, some of the surprises in the movie don't hit the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a good amount of the appeal of this movie is just so unpredictable. But once you know certain things are coming, it's not nearly as funny. It's still funny, but it's not the same experience.
Jack Black turned down the role of Alan.
I love Jack Black. It'd have been interesting to see him try
I
and
do too.
do this role.
Yeah, that would have been again a very different character for sure. I love stuff like that, man. You never know about stuff that's going on behind the scenes. Tyson, and I did remember hearing this, that Tyson was doing cocaine throughout this film, that he was really messed up, and that the film actually convinced him that he had to get himself cleaned up.
When you see him now compared to that, that's again why I'm like, man, it doesn't seem like this movie was that long ago. But uh, when I watched the Tyson scenes this time around, I was like, boy, he looks so much better today. Like he lost a lot of that weight. Um, you can just tell, like in his face, he just has a different vibe. I mean, of course, he looks older too, but he just looks a lot better. He looks a lot healthier.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Yeah, those I don't know if you watched any of those sparring videos where he was getting ready for that exhibition fight he did with Triller. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I was just sitting there like, there's no way on earth I would be a sparring partner for this guy because some of that stuff was legitimately terrifying. I was like, yeah, no.
I mean, I'm of the opinion he never should have come back to do anything in terms of the ring. I think that should have just been left alone. But you know, I don't know. A lot of those fighters, like pro wrestlers, you want to think you can still do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this guy's he still looks ferocious. He still doesn't need to be in a ring.
He
But
does.
yeah, just watching some of the way that he would switch gears when he was punching the bag, like I said, terrifying.
For sure. I wouldn't make fun of him.
Yeah, that
Kidding
guy
me?
on the airplane, did you see that?
I heard about it.
The
Yeah.
guy was behind Tyson and he was like, "Hey, take a picture with me." And he was like poking him in the back of the head. And Tyson turned around and just like started roughing the guy up.
Man. There's dumb and then there's
Yeah,
stupid.
it's like literally poking a tiger. What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? Oh, the bit about the tiger where they had to return the tiger to Tyson is the funniest thing. They realized they weren't going to take the tiger with them. You got it here, you get it back.
I mean, Tyson's appearance in the movie is one of the most legitimate shock laughs of the movie. Him singing a Phil Collins record and then just knocking Alan clean out.
Out of the blue too, right? Out of the blue knocks him out cold. And the way he hits the floor and he's laying there with his arms by his side is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, Tyson is great in this. If you look at some of his reactions to some of the scenes, hilarious. Like when they're putting the tiger in the car and Phil just starts like humping the tiger out of nowhere, and the way he turns around and looks at Phil, it's hilarious.
Oh, so good. And he may have wanted to be in the movie because Todd Phillips directed Old School, but that's not the only reason, because he revealed himself that he appeared in the film to fund his drug habit.
Well,
he was high on cocaine through the whole film. So yeah. Whew. The photos that you see at the end of the film were actually, those pictures were taken as they shot the film during production. So those weren't photos that the guys posed for after the fact or whatever. They apparently shot those scenes and intentionally didn't include the scenes in the film and just took pictures of them. So the lost night wasn't lost. They filmed it, but I guess they just did it so it would feel real. The photos wouldn't feel staged. But I found that pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, I think the reveal of all the pictures at the end of the movie is one of the funniest things in the movie.
I mean, we've seen movies do that in the past. I like that. That's a nice little gimmick. I like when that happens. Sometimes it fits, sometimes it doesn't, but it totally fits here. Yeah. Yeah, filmed on location at Caesar's Palace, including the front desk, lobby, entrance, drive, pools, corridors, elevators, and roof. But the sweet damage in the film was built on a soundstage.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. That's probably another of the reasons why it was so cheap to make. Because $35 million, I mean, it's jump change, Phil. It's nothing. But in Hollywood, it's not really, what's $35 million between friends? But yeah. And then, of course, the big reveal at the end. Now, all right. We gotta cover this as well, because I don't know if I knew this until I researched it. The Hangover was based on a true story. Producer Chris Bender of Bender Spink Productions heard the story of how his producer friend Trip Vincent went AWOL from his own bachelor party in Las Vegas and thought of spinning it into a movie. In 2002, Tripp was engaged. About 30 people stayed with Tripp at the Hard Rock Hotel in Vegas and went out partying for the night. After a series of parties across restaurants, bars, and strip clubs, everyone woke up in the morning hung over, and Tripp was missing. He later recalled, "Waking up in a strip club where I was threatened with a very, very big bill that I had to pay." So it was based in part on a real thing.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good concept for a movie.
They began developing the sequel before the original was even released. I had heard that before. I guess they were so confident this thing was going to work. But they also supposedly agreed to do part 3 if they didn't have to do a part 4. So I like that story as well. It was Ken Jeong's decision to go nude.
You want to fuck on me?
Yeah. When he's rolling the window up and he calls him the MF. Oh my God, dude. That's so freaking funny. He said first he got his wife's permission and then Bradley Cooper's permission to do it. He said, it was my idea to get naked. No one made me do it, though. If I do that, this movie will go like a bottle rocket.
You all call me.
Bradley and I are so good. Bradley and I are good friends. We did All About Steve prior to The Hangover. He and I had dinner the night before we shot that scene. I talked about my plan. Bradley loved it. Makes me want to go watch it again, actually. This is another good one. The two songs. The song Ed Helms does at the piano, which I know he could play anyway, is great. And he improvised the entire song as he sat at the piano. That was not written for him.
Yeah. One of the best bits of the movie.
It is. Also, the song that Alan does about three best friends, improvised on the spot. And the baby was supposedly portrayed by a set of triplets, but there's conflicting reports on that. So yeah, Todd Phillips waived his salary in favor of partial ownership, a decision that paid off handsomely. Seems like everyone was incredibly confident in this movie's success. So he said, "Don't pay me, but I want part ownership in this franchise." Very smart move. And Helms was filming The Office and The Hangover simultaneously, so that's pretty good. It's good stuff. I love behind the scenes information. You have a favorite scene in this film, dude? Is there a moment in this film that just cracks you up more than the rest of them?
It's probably the Tyson reveal, because at the time, if you don't know it's coming, it is it is one of the funniest moments in the movie. I think there are like very quiet moments that are funny in the movie. Like stuff when they're in a car talking, and just some of Zach Galifianakis' reactions to things are just hilarious. But probably the Tyson reveal.
Yeah, I don't know, anything with Alan is funny to me. I love the taser. I love how Phil talked their way out of getting in trouble. I thought that was genius. I don't know if that would actually work on a pair of cops. He's like, hey, it's going to be a little embarrassing if they find out that 3 tourists stole your cop car. We didn't even mention the cop car. They go to get the car. The attendant goes to get the car, and he brings up a police car and says, "Here you go, officers," and hands them the keys. It was like, I swear, it's like a whodunit. The whole movie's like a whodunit. So good. But yeah, I do think this is one of the best comedies, honestly, of the past 20 years at least. I mean, maybe less than that. I mean, it's so good. I'm trying to remember parts 2 and 3, and honestly, I'm drawing a blank.
Yes, the next two aren't that good. There are funny moments in them, but in a lot of ways, they're just derivative of the first movie.
Yeah, that happens a lot too, man. Again, same joke told 3 times is not as funny as it is the first time. I mean, again, I think that Ed Helms' character does the most changing in this film. He's the one that, comes to realize, because the running gag is that his girlfriend, had sex with a bartender on a Carnival Cruise Line. I like how they said the words Carnival Cruise Line in the film.
I love that they keep changing what it is, and he just keeps going bartender.
So waiter, like that's better.
A pilot.
Yeah. Did he say a bell? He said a bellhop at one point.
Keep changing, and he's just like bartender every time. It was a bartender. And by the way, he did not come at her, and he was like, "Yeah, of course." And you know that. And of course, I know that she's repulsed by sperm.
Yeah. Oh, the video that they watch in Tyson's house. And when they're so drunk, oh my God.
The way that Tyson is just staring at Zach Galifianakis the whole time it's going, he's just like, maybe I should stand outside.
Yeah, maybe you should. Yeah. Oh my God, that's funny. He got excited. What was it? He got excited, and he gave Ed Helms a high five.
Yeah. Because he said, "Where'd you guys get that police car?" And he's like, "We stole it."
That's right.
Like, nice.
Yeah. It's the only thing that made him happy, because the way he was looking at him, he was disgusted, especially when Phil was standing behind the tiger, what he's doing. Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
And the tiger just got in the car with him with no problem, no issues. Isn't that something?
He's humping the tiger, and everybody around him is just like rolling all over the ground laughing. Tiger just never turns around and does anything.
Alan throws up on the back of the cop car. I mean, they're disasters. This is a disaster, man. Oh my, yeah. Yeah, I mean it's and we don't know until we never found out why Phil was in the hospital for a mild concussion until we see the photos where Wayne Newton punched him in the face and he hit the floor, giving him a mild concussion. So once again, we've mentioned the word Wayne Newton on the 6M, Phil. How'd that happen?
Yeah, a lot of cameos in those pictures at the end are hilarious.
Yeah, if you're gonna make a film about Vegas, you have to put Wayne
You have
Newton in
to.
it. I think it's in the bylaws. Yeah. Well, kids, there you have it. There's the Hangover. We may not have made it sound as fun as it is, but trust me when I tell you, this is a fun flick. If you haven't watched in a while, go back and watch it again. If you have never watched it, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? Go watch it. Will we cover parts 2 and 3? You never can tell. Depends. I'd have to see part 2 again to see if I feel like it's worth covering, to be honest with you. Because I'm not sure. But I'll bet number 2, and I've never looked this up, but I bet part 2 did good business.
No, I'm sure it did. I'm sure all of them made good money.
If for no other reason, people wanted to know what was going to happen this time. Here's how things change, okay? So the budget for the first one was $35 million, and it made $470 million, right? The budget for part 2 is more than doubled. It's $80 million, up from $35 million, but it also made more. Instead of $469 million, it made $586 million, almost $589 million, or $87 million. So yeah, not too far off here. I mean, when you get up to almost 600 million, $1 billion doesn't sound like that much money in my opinion. It's just, holy God. These numbers are staggering, trying to look at them all at the same time. Part 3, by comparison, the budget was $103 million. So we have gone more than 3 times the budget of the first one. And this one made $362 million. It made the lowest of all 3 films. So yeah, by part 3, it's like, nah, I'm done with this. So yeah. Yep. There you go. Yeah, like we said, kids, part 1 is definitely worth watching. If you want to get into part 2 and part 3, that's fine, I suppose. Part 1 is definitely a keeper. Very good film. Well, Phil, let's take this thing home, my friend. Give me your last word on The Hangover.
Yeah, probably one of the most impactful comedy movies of that decade, I would say. I mean, it just, you're talking about like something that came out of nowhere and became a blockbuster hit at a time where I feel like comic book movies just started to bubble up and become the highest money makers, and this comedy film just came out of nowhere and made all this money. Yeah, and it ended up being a great experience at the movies. Man, can't say enough good things about just how, if you didn't know going into this movie, it is a perfect movie to not see anything about and just go into it blindly.
Yeah, it's chock full of surprises, man. That's the bad part about watching something for the first time is that once you see it, the surprises are gone. But man, before you get there, you don't know what to expect. But no, it's definitely worth watching, man. This is a good movie. I really enjoy this movie. And honestly, here was my hot take from the beginning that I neglected to give you this time out. I remembered really, really being upset with Alan's character in the first film because I thought, this is his fault. This is Alan's fault. Okay? This whole movie doesn't happen were it not for Alan. Period. But then when you come to find out, he's not as like, all right, so he's not, there's nothing really wrong with him. He's just odd. He's a little dense, right? But he honestly didn't know that he gave the guys roofies, thought it was ecstasy. And then the drug dealer himself, Black Doug, didn't know he gave the guys roofies, not ecstasy. So it doesn't let Alan off the hook, but you kind of get it. But didn't he do the exact same thing in part 2?
I don't remember the premise of the second movie. I know it's kind of the same thing that Doug gets kidnapped in the second one, though, doesn't he?
That's right. Yeah, because they go to Thailand. Yeah, they wake up. That's the one where Stu woke up with Mike Tyson's tattoo on his face.
Yeah.
And Alan's head is shaven. They got the chain smoking Kampukan monkey. Now I want to do this movie. Oh, that's good stuff. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see how bored we get and want to do part 2. You never can tell, kids. Just hold on to your hat, see what happens. But yeah, in the meantime, check this film out. It's definitely worth a watch. And we'll see what we do moving forward. But in the meantime, that is The Hangover. Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.